Here's a wild thought for you. Your body can actually start digesting food before you even take a single bite. Yeah, seriously. Just the sight or even the smell of something delicious can kickstart the whole process. It's getting your system primed and ready for what's about to happen.
So what really goes on in there? How does it all work? Welcome to Jasim Graphs. Today, we're diving deep and exploring exactly how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that powers literally everything you do, from solving a puzzle to just breathing.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to break this down into 3 parts. First, we'll follow the incredible journey your food takes. Then, we'll look at the essential building blocks our body is hunting for. And finally, we'll connect it all back to how it affects our day-to-day health.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the journey of food. We're going to look at the 2 most fundamental processes your body uses to get the job done. It all begins with digestion. You can think of this as your body's own personal demolition crew. It's all about taking these big, complex foods and breaking them down into tiny, simple pieces that our body can actually understand and use. And this happens in 2 really cool ways. First up is mechanical digestion. You know, the physical stuff. Chewing your food, your stomach churning, and mixing everything up. But then you have the chemical crew come in. Things like stomach acid and powerful enzymes that just dissolve the food at a molecular level.
But, breaking food down is only half the story. What's the point if you can't use it? That's where absorption comes in. Once those nutrients are small enough, they have to move from your gut into your bloodstream. This is the critical delivery step.
So, where does all this action take place? Well, the undisputed MVP of this whole process is the small intestine. Sure, things start in the mouth and stomach, but the small intestine is the absolute powerhouse. It's where most of the final digestion and nearly all of the nutrient absorption happens.
Let's make this super simple. Imagine you're eating an apple. That first crunch, that's mechanical digestion. As you chew, your saliva starts the chemical digestion. Then it hits your stomach, where acids go to work. Finally, the small intestine takes over, pulling out all the good stuff, the vitamins, the sugars, and sends it into your bloodstream as pure energy. Okay, so we've covered the process, but what are the materials our body is actually looking for? In Section 2, let's talk about the big-ticket items, the building blocks of our food. These are called macronutrients, and really macro just means big. Why? Because our bodies need these in large amounts every single day. They're what we use for energy, for growth, for repair, for basically everything. And there are 3 main players in this group. You've got carbohydrates and fats. Think of these as your body's main sources of fuel. They're the gas in your tank. And then you have proteins. Proteins are different. They're the construction crew, essential for building and repairing all your body's tissues. Now, this is so important. Balance is everything. It's not that any single macronutrient is bad for you. The real issue comes from a chronic excess of calories, particularly from carbs and fats, which study after study has linked to weight gain and other health problems down the line. I love this analogy. Think about building a house. Carbohydrates and fats are the energy. They're the electricity powering the saws and the fuel for the trucks. Proteins? They're the actual building materials, the bricks, the wood, the concrete. You absolutely need both to build the house correctly.
So we've got the how and the what. Now for the biggest question of all, why does this matter? In our last section, let's explore the health impact and see how the quality of our food makes a world of difference.
Let's talk about a huge part of the modern diet, ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. You know exactly what these are: frozen pizzas, chips, sugary cereals, soda. They're designed to be convenient and last forever, which usually means they're loaded with sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, and stripped of all the good stuff like fiber and vitamins.
Well, a really big study in Canada decided to investigate this. Researchers looked at data from over 6,000 adults to figure out what kind of effect these UPFs were having on people's health.
And the findings were pretty stark. People who ate more UPFs tended to have a higher BMI, a larger waistline, and higher blood pressure. But here's the real kicker. Even when they adjusted for weight, the connection was still there. They found a powerful link with something called C-reactive protein, which is basically a giant red flag for inflammation in the body. This leads to a fascinating and kind of scary idea from one of the researchers. She suggested that our bodies might see these UPFs as, well, not as food. It's like our system sees them as a foreign invader, which can trigger an immune response and cause inflammation, because it just doesn't know what to do with them. So let's put this into practice.
Imagine two lunch options. Lunch A is a frozen pizza. Super convenient for sure, but eating it often is linked to those inflammation markers we just talked about. Lunch B is grilled chicken, brown rice, and veggies. It might take a few more minutes to prepare, but it gives you balanced nutrients that actually support your health.
Okay, time for a quick recap. What are the most important things to take away from all this? First, your body uses two amazing processes, digestion and absorption, to make fuel. Second, that fuel comes from three macronutrients, carbs, fats, and protein. And third, and maybe most importantly, food quality matters because things like UPFs are directly linked to inflammation.
So if you remember nothing else, remember these three words: digestion, macronutrients, and inflammation. If you understand how these three are connected, you understand the core of how food affects your body.
And I'll leave you with this final thought. This isn't about perfection, it's about making small, better choices. So what's one simple swap you can make this week to choose a whole food over an ultra-processed one? A. If this explainer made things a little clearer for you, do me a favor and like the video and subscribe to Jasim Graphs. This video was made with AI assistance. And remember, AI can make mistakes, so it's always a good idea to double-check important facts.